But let me begin by saying, first of all, thank you for everyone that's here, because this is our community. I know it's Saturday, and I won't keep everyone too long. There is an itinerary. I want to say welcome to the 6th Ward, because it takes all of us to make our ward one great big ward, to make the improvements and the things that we care about. There's an itinerary back in the back. If you want to grab one, then grab one of those calorie-free donuts. Right. So I'm going to begin by, I'm Tonya Burns. I'm the 6th Ward City Councilwoman. If you need a card with my information, just about everybody seems to have it anyways. They are located in the back. I did place an itinerary so we know what we will be covering. We do not have, I received this morning text messages from 2 departments that will not be here. Those departments were not allowed to be here today. And I'm going to be open and transparent. Disappointed that they're not, but they're city departments. But I do want to state at the beginning, we lost a community activist, a person who served the community very well. Chris Del Maroney, he passed away. I believe his funeral is this morning. So Chris did so much, he showed up at every meeting. And Chris would still call me. Chris actually ran for 6th Ward. He ran for several different positions. And he showed up and he would speak out. He was about honesty and good government. And not only did he talk about it, he was there to make the change in our community. And that's what we're all supposed to do, serve our community, to unite it and to bring it together. And that's what Chris Del Maroney was, and that will be his legacy. And I will always miss seeing him. He always spoke at public speaking. You know, I miss seeing him there at the city council meetings and posing questions. If he had an opportunity to speak for everything, every committee, even public hearings, Chris spoke. He spoke. So we can just give a moment of silence to Chris Del Maroney. Thank you. Okay, I want to say, because there's our chair, I want to say welcome to, we have here the great community partners. Community First is a great community partner, and they opened up their facility to allow us to be here. And I want to say thank you to Glenn Wilson and to Joel Arnold. Joel Arnold is a very tall guy back there, if anyone doesn't know. Thank you. They're great community partners, so they have opened up this facility to allow us to hold this meeting. And we have to have great community partners so that we can convene, and I appreciate that. We also have, Joel will be speaking about some of the projects and things that they have in the 6th Ward. The 6th Ward has 3 projects with Communities First, so they're a big partner, and they will be taking questions. We also have the land bank. Many people have questions from the land bank. And we have Ms. Renetta Speed here, and we have Jonathan, I don't know your last name, Jonathan. He used to work at the city, but the county stole him. And we're waiting on, we have one more person coming from the land bank. So the land bank is here to ask questions. People are asking about demos and different issues, clean and green and certain things. And the land bank is under the direction of Mr. Michael Freeman. He's a great community partner. We have a very good rapport, him and I. We will call the text, and I don't think it matters what time of the day or night that it is, so he is accessible. Then we also, we're going to speak with, and she's going to be here shortly, to talk about, many residents had questions about what's happening with the service lines, what's happening with the repair, with the court case with Judge Lawson. Melissa Mays will be here to speak and give an update. Where is that at? Restoration. People want to know about their driveways. They want to know about their lawns. They want to know about those streets, because the streets, they also make cuts in the streets. So they're going to be here. So the 2 departments of the Blight Department will not be here, and the police department. But I'm going to speak on some of the things I've been working on with the police department. so that it is really unfortunate that our police department, our police chief is not here, and that no one is here to represent, because those are some of the issues that need to be talked about and that residents are most frustrated about. And I'm going to get into first, I don't know, Ms. Speed, are you ready with the land bank, or?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. For those of you that don't know me, I am the community relations manager for the City Council.
You want to come up here? That way they can hear you.
Okay. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon.
I'll lower the mic since Joel made it for tall people.
Thank you. You can hear me, right? No. Yeah. Okay. Again, my name is Renetta. I am the community relations manager for the Genesee County Land Bank. What basically means I am the link between the Genesee County Land Bank and the community. My main responsibility is to attend meetings like this and build a relationship between the community and the land bank. But again, I didn't intend to speak. I was here to offer moral support to my colleagues. Jonathan Mantine, who is the manager, one of the managers of our demolition program, and I know there are a lot of concerns about the demolition program. And also going to join us is Alexandria Riley. She is the director of our sales department. She's on her way, she'll be here in a few minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mantine.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I talk first.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jonathan Mantine. I'm the Demolition Program Manager at the Genesee County Land Bank. And yes, before that, I worked at the City of Flint. Great job, great place to work. I working with zoning. So I feel like I've seen a few faces, whether it be at a planning commission meeting or zoning board meeting, historic district. That was my job there. Now I'm helping with the demolition program. So I just want to give you all an update of where we are. Also talk about where we started, how we got to where we are, and where we plan to go. Talk about some different things with the demolition program, some issues that we hear from residents. And I know at a certain point in this, you all got questions, so hopefully I can answer them, but if not, I'll pass it on to Jane. So currently, we have funding to demolish 1,910 properties. We have to date 438 of those properties out on bids, and about 251 of those have been demolished. Here in the 6th Ward, we have 115 demolitions that are going to come down about 2024, 2025. There are only 8 demos that we hit so far with the first bid that we put out. The first bid that we put out, it's pretty much stretched across the city, and it's hitting properties that we were not able to demolish with our hardest hit ones because the prices of the demolitions were so high. It was too high to abate some of those properties, and so we needed more money and had to pull those properties and plan them for later. So those are being hit right now. So a little bit about our process. We have environmental surveys that get completed for demolitions. This is when an environmental survey team will go into the properties, they look at hazardous materials, they look at the conditions of the properties. That'll inform contractors of the methods they need to use to knock the structures down. And they also survey the properties for asbestos. So they have to go in, take the asbestos out, if it's accessible, package it up, send it to the proper landfills, make sure that those items were properly abated and taken out. So what that means is, the contractor will go in, take out all the hazardous materials, all the contaminants, and then we have to verify that that has been taken out of the properties before we go in and demolish the structures. At that point, demolition contractors will go hit the structures, make sure they're kept wet so it's not dusty, hurting the environment, different residents that live near the structures. And then they haul them out. After that, we get the city of Flint or whatever municipality we're working in, whether it be Mount Morris Township, Flint Township, they'll go out, verify Like I said, we have about 250 properties that have been torn down. So I'm a numbers person. I like to get my numbers. People are always curious. And so the city of Flint, we've actually abated 143 properties. We've knocked down 89. This was as of yesterday. In Genesee County, we've abated 168 properties. We've knocked down 112. We have some upcoming bids. So September 12th, this Tuesday, we have a bid that we're releasing. It doesn't have any properties located in the 6th Ward. It's about 74 properties that are primarily in the 1st Ward. Then we have another bid coming out in October. That'll take us to 77 properties on that bid, again, between the 1st and 2nd Wards. Beyond that, we have questions about contractors that we get, who are we working with is a big question that's often passed around. So we have a pre-qualification process. During this process, contractors have to show us exactly who they are, what they've done in the past, show us the violations they've, been given from EGLE and from OSHA, what they do to make sure they don't make mistakes again. They let us know about their insurances, licensing, things like that. The reason that's important is because we want to make sure we have highly qualified contractors working here in the city that know the job, know what they need to do, know how to protect the neighborhoods, and know how to communicate with us to work through different issues. So we have 6 contractors that we're working with. 2 of those companies are minority-owned businesses based in Detroit. We have a woman-owned business that's based down in Jackson, Michigan. And then we have 3 other contractors that are in the Pier and in Saginaw area. So we're continuing to open up the pool for contractors because there's a lot of work to do. We have to get it done quick. We have a lot of money to spend. So if you all know any contractors that aren't doing work with the land bank and want to do work, maybe have a conversation with people, definitely be sure to have them reach out to us at the land bank, and we'll walk them through our processes and hopefully get them set up to work with us, whether it be now or in the future. So another question I want to touch on before I pass the mic on is our demolition scoring framework. So this touches on how we select properties to be demolished. So at the end of every year, you all probably are well aware of it, we get properties with tax foreclosure. So when December comes, people have not, when auctions come, they say we don't want these properties. Go to the city, the county and the city may not want it. They waive the opportunity to own those properties, and so we get them at the land bank. So we get properties in all sorts of conditions. Some of them are really nice. You can rehab it, renovate it, put it back on the market, and sell these properties at market rate. But then there are some properties that come in, they are in very, very bad condition. They might be dumping grounds, they might be burnouts, the houses may be collapsed. And so we send our inspectors out in the field to get a good understanding of the houses we have, what we can save, what we can sell, and what we need to demolish. So they use a scoring framework. They weight these scores based on whether or not they're a direct threat to adjacent structures. There's a house right now, we're calling the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It's leaning over. There's a house, it's a land bank house that's going to be demolished one day too. But that can fall over and take out the house next door. So that's an emergency. We need to get on it and allocate funding for it. We look at occupancy. So if a neighborhood is full of residents, maybe we need to go in there and take out 3 or 4 properties to make this neighborhood or this street look very inviting. So we use that to score. We look at proximity to schools, whether or not a house is burned down. We look at fire holding availability. So there are a lot of properties that have been burned down. We don't just walk away. They don't go to fix the problem, clean the property. So there's fire holding money we can get from the city to fund those demos. We look at proximity to parks and visibility for major roads. And the bonus here is we look at residential complaints. So meetings like this are very important because we get to hear from residents. We get to hear what is affecting you all's lives on a day-to-day basis that we may not see. And so definitely keep that open line of communication with us here at the land bank, means the demolition program. When you see a problem, property that's not funded, property that's not on the demo list, maybe you see that there's a property that's going through the tax foreclosure process that may end up in our inventory that you want to bring to our attention. You need it knocked down or you need debris hauled out from the side certain amount of opportunity that has to be given to these businesses. As far as who they employ, we leave that up to them. Some companies, you will see the payrolls, once they start asking for payments, they are employing a lot of people from Genesee County. One company in particular, inner city contracting, that's a Detroit-based company. We were shocked when we saw the number of people that they are employing from Genesee County. Clio, Fenton, Flint, another one is Smalley Construction. They have a lot of Flint guys on their teams coming here to do the work as well.
Okay, but the majority of the vacant homes are in the city of Flint
Majority of
compared to Genesee County.
absolutely.
Is there a way you can change the way that it's documented, the way that you put these bids out, that it's a requirement that they have? So, I mean, we have all these kids around here who don't have skills, and this is an opportunity for them to have skills. And make it where it's city of Flint residents that get the work so they can, get money and get trained.
Absolutely. So one thing that we're working on to encourage that, we've been talking with the Flint Genesee County Chamber to offer skills training. Because a lot of these jobs, they require skills. You have to be an asbestos worker. You have to know how to go in and take this stuff out of these properties in a safe manner. You have to know how to drive an excavator on all the pre-office sites. And so one solution is to fill that skills gap. And we've been working with partners who have that opportunity to do that. Hopefully, before this money is spent, or if we get more, we can start to see more of that money be circulated here for employment. Yes.
Do you know what the status of the Marion apartments is?
I don't, but I can try to find that out for you. Make sure you have my card so we can stay in contact.
Okay, great.
Is that from Court Street?
Yes.
They're being torn down by, December. I spoke with, Mike Green, the ones that are right to, I think 2208 or 22.
2208, yeah.
Yep, 22, it will be torn down by December,
By the city?
by the land bank.
Oh, by
Absolutely.
the land bank. Great.
Yeah, it's the land bank, I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Because that's what our CDBG.
Yeah, we work together.
We also, I didn't know about Marion Apartments. I mean, at this point, I'm calling it 2208.
Right.
It's lovely apartments on Court Street. So, but yes, those are coming down.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I'm here for a lot of property. I've been talking to land for over 4 years. 5,000 bids, but I own bids for now. My driveway on my car, so I was purchased this 5 years ago, and I went inside, they said it was worth it, and they should flow the water, so I'm trying to see how we can get my house in sewer. Basically, I was in the water, I walked through the land, and I purchased it, okay. So I got it, so I'm using it for the
I can look into that before I leave here. I got an answer.
That one is on the demo list too, but we don't have the date when it's demo, yeah.
So
Right.
just let them maybe do something because, like I said, it's a ball on the wood, in my driveway, so.
Right, so I know what the thing about the sixth ward is, so we're working through the city right now in sort of like clockwise fashion, and it's putting the sixth ward further out for these demolitions. But for properties like that, we can definitely talk to our maintenance team to go out there and try to secure the property as best we can so that that stops happening. So we don't want that, so I can definitely get my team on that, over the next year, so I have your number to stay in contact. I'll get someone on that. I'll solve that. Got another question here.
Yeah, I have a question. So after, say you knock down that house that's next Oh, okay, well, even if it's not hers, once you do any home and it now becomes a lot, who is responsible at that point to
Right.
maintain?
So for any homes that, or any lots that don't sell to the adjacent properties after we demo those, we are putting these lots out for a clean and green program. So we're making these available to different community groups. They can take ownership of these lots, and I know Renetta Speed is here, so if I get anything wrong, please let me know. But we're letting them take care of those lots, we're giving them money to do it. They can go in and maintain them, and cut the grass, let us know if there's anything that needs to be taken off-site. If no clean and green programs get those lots, and they're left just to us, I believe that they get added to our mowing schedules that happen throughout the summer. So currently, I know there's been one cycle they've gone through the city of Flint, mowed all the lots, and now they're starting the second cycle. So they're working very fast. We're getting them twice in the summer, which is pretty good, it's better than once. That's currently how we're managing it.
But in addition to that, we also have adopt a lot, lease a lot, and sell, where you can purchase the property. So if you live next door to a vacant lot that's in the inventory of the Tennessee County Land Bank and it's touching your property, you can qualify for the side lot program, which means in the city of Flint, make sure you hear this, in the city of Flint, if you qualify for the side lot program, you can get that property for less than $100. The property is $25, and then you have to pay the administration fee. Again, that's only in the city of Flint, because when you get outside the city of Flint, the lots are a lot larger, so they're gonna cost a little bit more money. Oh, that's okay.
All right, any more questions? I'll pass it over. We got one over here.
Yeah. What is the process of filing a complaint against a property owner that's not on the demo list, but their property is like trash?
So that will go to the light department of the city of Flint, I believe. I think they have an online complaint filing system.
I think she's speaking about the Bradley,
No, I'm speaking about the Orchard Lane one.
Orchard Lane. And it's
Yeah.
a private owner or?
Private owner had a fire in 2018 before COVID and does nothing to take care of the property. We, the neighbors, have been, we're cutting the grass and things of that nature. Garage door was open, one of the neighbors boarded up the garage door. I own the property next door, I live across the street, rodents, trash, everything affected my property. And with all this rain affecting my property, but the owner, I just looked, the property is not on the demo list. And
it's actually not property, actually, they pull permits.
I don't even know what that means. I
They
just know
pull,
what
it's
it means
not,
for me.
it's not a land bank property. And so
Right.
you would not have the answer to that. And I know you're talking about condos on the corner.
That's why I asked, what is the process, or who should I be contacting?
That's the light division in the city, right?
It's the blight division, and technically it's the council person, but it has to go, actually that one was sent to legal. And so is 809.
What about that? Is that Bradley Hill?
809 is right there.
Oh, okay, what, is that Bradley Hill one, the one with the abandoned car yard, 408, I think, is that?
I know Bradley is another one, is that one that's halfway up into land bank.
That's the one that has the squatters.
Grass and that,
Yes. And
Yeah.
you can't see when you're coming.
when you're coming out.
So the level, you can't see traffic. You'll just snake right out somebody.
All right, thank you. M-A-T-E-E-E. John,
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, and to answer the question, in regards to the properties, I don't make the process, we have to follow many of the departments are underfunded and understaffed. So to get a property done, and a lot of them have been like that for years. And with them being like that for years, the process first, if you report it to me, what I do is send an email and create a paper trail. And then I send it to the Building and Permits Department. And then depending on we have 809, that is still in court, and that's with Judge Bell. So one of our biggest issues in the city of Flint is enforcement. We have ordinances. I don't have the ability to enforce. The enforcement goes on to our NSOs, which was at our last council meeting. NSOs, I want our NSOs to be more aggressive. And my question to Chief Green was, are the NSOs only taking complaints of when we call in, like to get a ticket, or are they riding down the streets writing tickets? Because if you ride down almost any street, you can write a ticket. We got tall grass, boats, campers. We've got vehicles on the street that have trees growing out of them. So you will see, some of everything. And then the NSO, some of them have been telling residents how to move their vehicles. Move it up a little bit. So that's a problem. And these are issues that I did address, and I do address the council. One of the other issues was they take the stickers off. And so when they take the stickers off, it's hard to track. So blight that contributes to blight when they do that. So I am working on an ordinance, and during our last meeting this past Wednesday, I did ask the city clerk and the city attorney we need to update that ordinance, because if we have the same person, they've got 10 vehicles and they're not driving a boat and a camper, and they're stored in lots next to them or behind the house or in front of the house, then we need to change that to update it to reflect what we know the issues we are having. But when you have a house, to get back to that, I know it's frustrating for buildings. As we look at Land Bank getting their buildings torn down, it's over 2,000, I believe, to be torn down, and we don't have enough contractors. Enforcement is an issue. If you know anyone who is looking to work for the city, they're hiring. And so that is something that we need to have. I'm not protecting anyone when it comes to if your property or whoever it is. I had a lady tell me yesterday, she's like, my neighbor cuts my grass, but they have a boat and some other things. They do a fine job. It's anonymity. You remain anonymous when you talk to me. The goal is to make sure that we're all taking care of our neighborhoods. And it's difficult because there's so many properties. People at the water crisis just left. A lot of them just left. They didn't stay. And many of them had at that time, it was almost like a perfect storm. Those balloon mortgages came, and then you had the water crisis, and people left. So what are we left with? Rebuilding our community. And so that is my goal. That's why I have meetings. This is an all 6th Ward meeting. I do go to all of the meetings. We have a lot of meetings in the 6th Ward. We have a lot. And I do go, and I'm always available for questions. But I cannot force the city to enforce what needs to be enforced. I can send the emails, and I call, and them enforcing it, they're understaffed. It's almost the same, I hate to say it, with the police. I mean, I should be getting in my car at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because there are calls about parties that are going on and gunshots. But I do. Because I take it very serious. Because some of the things, I believe almost anything now because I've seen some of everything. I had a lady who was having every weekend she turned 32. She had a birthday party every weekend. And I told her, and I went over, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And I said, hey, look, you can't do this. You don't have to worry who's calling the police. I am. And I did. I said, you've been 32 times, now come on. So we haven't had a problem this summer with her, but there are things that we have to take extraordinary measures. I get that we don't have enough police. That's why I've also partnered with the Michigan State Police, because often we didn't have a unit available. We just simply did not. Our homicides are down, but our shootings were up. Gunshots was up 4%. You know, they just don't shoot very well. They're not as good of a target, thank God. And the hospitals are doing a better job of taking care of them. But what I want to do at the onset is to make sure when we have these house parties like Sherwood and Crestwood, that someone show up. You know, when they're partying and they take up Crestwood and Sherwood right at that point, and they've had shootings there. And I got them, and I think I shared them on the Glendale Hills site, to where you hear just the gunshots. And someone was hit on one of them. So when we still have these, let's stop the parties before they start the shooting. It was the same in my park on Fremont. You know, I picked up a bag of bullets from a resident, a gun shells. You know, this has too often been our norm. It is not normal to live with gunshots. It's just not. That we tune it out. It's not normal. And so that's why I did invite Police Chief Green here, and Detective Sergeant Booth, and both of them at the last minute said they could not make it. And neither could Blight. So when we talk about bringing our city together, it begins at the top with our leadership. And that part is something we have to set aside the differences for the residents. I will always do that. I will be fair. Everything that I do and base my decisions on is on my Flint City charter when it comes to my voting record. Everything. And my charter does look a mess because I use it. And it's dog-eared, paper-clipped, and highlighted. So I base my decisions on charter and transparency. And I'm not gonna waver from that. You never lose when you go and work for the residents, because I'm out there, I know what's going on in our community. I know that we don't get, the calls when you call for gunshots and people have to get up the next morning and their children are sleeping and have to go to school. That's tough. I don't have little children, but I would be living. That can become an interaction with the neighbor. So with me racking my brain, because I have to work backwards with something, how do I get it to work? I had to work backwards. You know what I did? I went out and spent time at the 911 Genesee County Center. I went there and stayed. I put a little headphone on. I understood the calls because I didn't understand why aren't our calls being answered. I learned a lot. Tim Jones runs the Genesee County 911 Center. We have a great working relationship. And I will always keep that because he makes me aware. Because when you call me, it's generally because you're not getting any action on what's happening. So what I learned was we have an LOU, a letter of understanding. There are calls that the Flint police will not respond to. So there's a 4-page LOU. And so on this will tell you if you have to go through telephone recording unit or if it has to go to a desk sergeant. So when the parties were happening, they weren't dispatching because the LOU was saying we don't dispatch for noise. So I'm calling Sergeant Booth. I said, hey, look, you guys have an LOU. And he said, what's an LOU? I said, it's a letter of understanding. He said, well, what is that? I said, I'm going to send it to you. And I sent him the LOU. I said, we gotta fix this. I said, this is when people are calling and someone's shooting or it's a loud party and it's 2, 3 a.m. And they throw some good parties now. They have DJs in the garages, And so what happened was he said, you know what, Tonya, this has got to be changed. And he did change that. That was this week. But it took for me to work backwards because I'm not getting cooperation. And I'm gonna be transparent. But when he was like, okay, well, let me change, that doesn't make sense. Let me call the chief. And I did speak with the chief. And I'm gonna be honest, Chief Green has not been taking my emails and calls. He does not. He has not been at our Glendale Hills meetings. He has not been there. He missed the last Mount Park one. He told me he would try to get someone here today. I did give Mr. Blackwell, who's back there, he was his Cub Scout leader. I gave Chief Green's number to Mr. Blackwell. He did contact him, but he would not contact me back. And so when they play politics with the people, we're not supposed to do that. I won't do that.
So can we get a copy of
The LOU?
and our group get a copy
Yeah, I will put the LOU up. I think I have put it up before, but I will put the LOU back up, and it's 4 pages of what they respond to and what they don't. And then you can put in the comments what you want changed. Now, I get the mindset when Chief Green signed the LOU, it was to free officers up because of the gunshots. I get that, but when we have these parties, the next thing after the wild parties is gunshots. And so that just didn't seem to work. That part, they did change. I said, hey, that LOU. Yes.
When was the LOU established? Because things are different. I mean, our culture is a little different. So when you have a party like that, you're almost guaranteed to have some gun shootings and
You are correct.
and issues. So if it's written a long time ago,
Nope.
it probably doesn't apply.
It was written, I didn't bring in my laptop, then 2020. So 2020 letter of understanding between the city of Flint and Genesee County 911.
So who wrote that?
This was Chief Green.
Chief, and did it have to go through city council for approval?
No, he has authority within his department to make those decisions. Now, LOU, I sent to Detective Sergeant Wu, and they're making some corrections on it. Because those parties, one thing we know in COVID, people stayed home and partied. They learned how to party. They weren't doing blue light in the basement anymore. They were doing house parties outside. So the LOU was 2020. And so I did send it back, and I know that they are changing the noise, so they're looking at it. And if I'm gonna put the LOU up so that everyone put your input, and then I will send it back in to them. And they watched Glendale Hill's website, because when I put up about Matt Gillette, I got a call right back. Mr. Blackwell was just behind me.
I want to know what procedure that you take, because I talked to Officer Green 3 times, and he had the guy to come out. I guess the blight department to put stickers on the car. Fast as they put them on, they tear them off. And he has rode through the neighborhood. I saw it, but he has done nothing about the issue. Now, where do we go from here? And also, I have a neighbor that he cut his lawn last year twice. And this year, he only cut it because we got on him, so he went out there and cut it. Now it needs to be cut again, and he got all these vehicles out on this lot next door, to him. I guess he purchased that lot. And they just sitting there. And I have contacted Officer Green 2 or 3 times. He said, well, I'm going to take care of it. And all it does is you got rodents, you got these groundhogs, and they taking over the city. Right. Now, what are we going to do?
Well, Mr. Blackwell, I've been to your home. I still have pictures, because I take pictures of the stickers, and they do tear them off from up to a year and a half ago. So what I am, now with the stickers, and your name did come up at our council meeting, and I told Chief Green, because if you're not taking my calls privately, then we'll talk publicly.
And then also, I got a neighbor that parked across the sidewalk. And I have told her you can't do that, but they do it anyway.
And that's when I say enforcement. Okay, parking across the sidewalk would be a Flint police issue, or during the day, the NSO.
And about the party, next door to me that's where a complaint came in. There's about 150 young people out there, and they was all over the place. And I looked in my driveway. They were sitting in my driveway. I said, you can't do that. And when you say something to them, you are the bad guy. And the way those young women were conducting themselves, it was just terrible. And we called the police 2 or 3 times. They never came.
And y'all called me too.
Yeah, I called you.
You did. I got, from that night, that party, I believe I received 4 phone calls. And I just ended up having to know one of their relatives, and I woke him up and said, I need you to talk to them because they're disturbing the neighborhood. I could not get police response. Now, I didn't get police response, Mr. Blackwell, that night. It ended up being a shooting. about 3 hours later in an accident that they were fleeing from shooting that night.
Yeah, I heard, but
Yeah.
this happened
So-
2 or 3 times. They went to, and I
that's
think
why-
one time I couldn't get in my driveway.
Right, and that's why the LOU, when you're having a house party, that they are changing and that they have to respond. So, and like I said, I get what Chief Green was doing initially to free up more officers, but those parties turn into shootouts.
Yeah.
They're shootouts, they're shooting at each other. So, then I asked, the other part is enforcement. We just have to, I keep an email, a paper trail, because I don't just do the verbal, I will email them, then I'll call them. And if I have their phone number, I text them. I don't care what time of the night it is. If y'all are calling me, I'm waking everybody up. And I do.
And another thing, in the neighborhood, is there any way I could get speed bumps on that street? Because you got people coming down there going 50 or 60 miles an hour in a residential area.
Speed bumps will not, there was one which you wanted right there on Orchard, and they have not been purchased yet. They will, and now it's time for them to come up in about another month. We did have I did ask for like a more permanent as opposed to putting them down, because in Illinois, I lived in Chicago on and off for 15 years commuting, and they had cement ones. And these little speed humps, they're not even bumps, they're humps. And they take them up, they put them down like the end of April, 1st of May, and they take them up the end of October by November. And so, you know, we don't always have snow on the ground, you know, so I would rather have a permanent speed bump, not a hump. So that's for me. So I am reading, literally researching. It's about this thick, and I'm slow to read that one because I got 50 million other things. I will be a true, I'll know a lot about speed humps and bumps when I'm done. So, yeah.
A couple of 2 or 3 years ago, there was talk about putting up the technology that would direct police or would give them a clue to where the shots were coming from. What happened? Shot spotters, yeah. What happened to that?
Well, and we need to have it, and that is technically a question Chief Green should be here to answer, or someone from the police department, and he's not, unfortunately. So the technology with shot spotters, and some of the research, some say it's good. Detroit Police Department didn't really swear by them because how the data was coming in. We don't have, they're stating some of the cameras are attached with shot spotters, but they don't give the location. So I will ask back when you were at council meeting with your lovely song. and if you could pose that question, and I will ask that question again. I'll email it back to them because we do need an update on the shot spotters.
And then he told me, he said, I see what happened. And he drove down the street. And I said to myself, why are you not pulling those cars or doing something about the issues? You see it, but you ain't doing nothing.
And I did speak with him, Mr. Blackwell, during the council specifically. And I did tell Chief Green in regards to that they peeling off the stickers, that there needs to be an update to the ordinance, that if you're pulling off the ticket and your vehicle is still in the same spot and you still don't have a registered license or insured, that there should be a stiffer penalty for it. That at that point, you're not using the vehicle, we need to start towing them. And then they'll understand, when we start towing those vehicles, they'll understand, get them off the street.
Right.
And that's where I'm aiming to push, and I am working with the legal department on that, and then also I had given it to the city clerk, and while Chief Green was at the podium, him and I had open dialogue about this, and he did agree. So I'm gonna push my end.
So you saw the tree coming out of that truck?
Yep, and that's not the only one that I've seen. Yes, the tree was in the bed of the truck, growing. Yes. Shelley and then Michelle.
If we could go back to 809.
Yes.
I know that that's in litigation, I get it. They recently dumped a big load of trash on the south side of the building. I reported it, it's into the white tab. I got an email back that says it has been taken care of, will be reported again. I have. I've since noticed that a large pillar that was holding up the overhang is leaning against the building. And there are people and children in and out of there consistently. It is an accident waiting to happen.
And you're 100% correct.
So I don't know what the next steps are. I have talked to all the people. I've done the reporting because they come to our community meetings. They say, if you do this, and please do this, and let us know. We do all of those things. Like, you know, so what are our next steps as far as something that we know is dangerous and is an accident waiting to happen, be addressed? So what do we do next?
Well, what I'm not giving up on is for every meeting, I always request an update from the legal department because it is environmentally unsafe. And it's also unsafe, it's hazardous because the building is open to the elements and things, it's stripped, it's a mess in there. And there's also, I believe, asbestos in that building. So the building is not secure. I did send an email to have the city to have it boarded up, you know, to keep them out. We've asked about gates, a fence going around it to keep people out. Legal is stating it's not much they can do. And, yeah, legal is stating it's not.
No other city would that be acceptable. And there are children, contrary to what people believe, there are still children playing in our neighborhood.
Yes.
And there are children who play right back here on this playground. And you have something that is absolutely dangerous and unacceptable. So we have that issue here, and we have the same issue with enforcement when you talk about Sunset Avenue, where they fly down there, and we have children who are now attending these events on Tuesday nights in Mott Park. So while we're all doing the things they've asked us to do, we're cleaning up trash, we're building, you know, good things for kids and families, the enforcement part is going to stop that fast. Because people aren't going to have their children living and playing in areas that are completely unsafe. They know it's going to happen, but then when it's not addressed, it's been, 10 years? If that's been looking like that, that's not okay. And it is literally, that big pillar is leaning against the building at this moment. I was hoping they'd be here. And
Me too.
And I know it's not you, because I wanted to take somebody on a field trip afterwards.
I think we all should take a field trip and go take a picture right there. It's right here across the street if you guys don't know what she's talking about.
And
We should just take a group picture, make it a poster, take it to the city council.
And here's and absolutely, you know, I do work for the residents, but the residents, I mean, I know our meetings can get into a lot of things, but your voice has to be heard. It has to be. Because these are issues, I can't even tell you how many emails I've sent about 809 and the owner and the company before. I mean, David Wilcox, I quit taking his calls because he was full of it.
And Judge Bell.
Judge Bell will retire out. But I don't, yeah,
With
I
her
don't,
making the decision.
yeah, with her not making it correct. I did ask legal to send a letter to Judge Bell. I haven't heard back from that part because it is dangerous. No one wants to look at that. You know, and then also we have this nice facility here, and this does not, that building does not help, you know, to enhance this one. And it's not consistent with our landscape in the neighborhood, and that's what's important, our landscape. And first it's a danger. Now the building downtown failed, the bricks came down in an emergency demo. I want that building emergency demo, and let them figure out the court case later. That's not our problem. Exactly. Well, that's the same thing with the one downtown. I mean, they are trying to figure out the owners. Demo it. It's a dangerous, it's a hazard. Michelle? Oh.
That lady on the front row was there.
Oh. Well, thank you, Mr. Black. Look, Mr. Blackwell, good at that, bossing people around. It's a letter of understanding. Well, let me tell you about that. Well, listen, I'm all for it because that never takes night, day. But let me tell you what, that's another. They do. And me tell you, but no, hey, I understand, because that was a problem for me too. When I graduated, we didn't go over 25. Everybody was running slow to be seen. Now everyone's in a hurry to get someplace. So let me tell you what I did about that, because I am about solutions. I wrote an ordinance, reckless driving ordinance, and that ordinance has been approved. What happens is, if they're doing figure eights, dangerous driving, speeding, the city of Flint has the ability to take the car and sell it. I don't know if you saw the video of the guy started downtown. He drove all over Flint and then stopped at the gas station. And literally, and the Michigan State Trooper, Trooper 1, the helicopter was following him. He was all over the donuts on the bricks, and I was like, this guy. And so his car will be going up for auction. So I worked, so that was an issue, and I addressed that one. And so there is an ordinance that I did introduce last year. I can't remember the ordinance number, but I did put it up on my website. My Facebook page is open to everyone. I also post in all of our groups, Glendale Hills, my part. And so that first vehicle will be going over. So they can take them off all I can. Because it's dangerous, it's reckless. Chief Green and I did agree on that. And so that ordinance, they did take one vehicle, but they can take a whole bunch more. But enforcement is the issue. We don't have enough police officers. And if you know anyone who's looking, Flint Police Department is hiring, and they do have a signing bonus. Michelle, and then you, Mr. Black.
Question about the speeding, like everybody was talking about. Speed bumps are fine. That kind of deters people from speeding. But you are supposed to enforce when you do find people speeding. Have they purchased more radar guns? Because it's my understanding they cannot stop a speeder unless it's on a radar gun. So we have two. Every officer should have one. Has anybody put that in front of the council?
It has been talked about, but we cannot force Chief Green with his budget. That's why.
Could they buy it through the ARPA funds?
He has it in his budget also. He has it in his budget. It could have been bought. I mean, equipment could have been. He didn't ask it. It was asked by him. So when we talk about enforcement issues, he should have been here. He should have had him here as absent. So I won't speak to that part. We did put an ordinance up for officers' peak times for crimes in the city of Flint. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sundays for a resolution for overtime for officers to patrol the streets, because that's when the parties are happening. City council turned that down.
That's,
Yeah.
another speed bump was, and another thing, these roads, last year, we caught 25, and they still come. Now, what are we gonna do about that? Because
They did use this portion of the ARPA funds, which they do have contractors to capture groundhogs and raccoons. So that was passed. I don't know where they're going to begin at, because the groundhogs are everywhere.
I get rid of it.
Well, the groundhogs, they're pretty smart. Yes.
As far as, like, the party goes, not the officers, if they are renters, can we like fire the landlords, would you say something to them?
Yes.
You can, and I have called landlords, and work with some of them. You know, then some just don't care. We have people say I don't know if you know about the red light district house. I knocked at the door. I was talking to someone who worked for a policing agency, and he was like, Tonya Burns, what are you doing? He said, where you at? I said, this red light is on. He said, Tonya Burns, where are you at? I said, I'm getting ready to talk to these people with all this noise that they're making. He's like, you can't be out there by yourself. He said, that means they're open for business. I said, what do you mean open for business? He said, prostitution, Tonya. I said, okay. So the red light district homes, I was was able to get closed down, working with authorities to get it shut down. But they would have, and with a very steadfast neighbor who gave me all the information that was needed. I had told her, I said, I'm going outside to take a look at, to get the license plate. And she pulled out the side of her legs and bought some military binoculars. She said, oh, you don't have to go outside and use these. I'm like, oh, these are good. So the red light district house, some things take longer. It was shut down because they were servicing people on the streets. And this was over in the Mott Park. And so the news did cover it. So it's on my page. So I mean, one, just know.
Not all of them, but
So
a lot of these young people don't respect you or themselves or nobody else. I work with the sheriff's department, security, and I had an encounter at the church at a funeral. But we took care of the situation. But like I said, if you say something to them, they certainly do anything to you.
yeah, and that, but the thing is, can we not say nothing? And I'm gonna tell you, even on my street, my block, it was, I talk to them, and I create a relationship with them, especially if I know that's where they live. And it's easier for me, so if you have a problem, it's easier for me to interact with them and to work something out. Now the ones, my neighbors who, I'm like, they didn't even party for the holiday. The next door to me, he works for the city. He's like 22. I'm like, he's not even partying, he's 22. Across the street is 29. So it's creating that relationship and respect. Now when he was up at burning rubber on his motorcycle at 9 a.m., I went outside. And he was like, Miss Tonya, I didn't realize. I said, no, don't do this. This is Saturday. You break up. Don't make me call the police on you. And so it's just talking with some of them, and trying to find something to connect with them. And I do want to say Councilwoman Murphy Carter is back there. She is back there. She supports, and her and I really work very closely together to make sure we're doing great things, for our residents. So I know we got any more questions, but we kind of got off. I wanted to have Melissa Mays speak. So the Blight Department, if you have questions about blight, anybody? Okay. Any more questions about, well, we have the lady of the hour, she's here, from the land bank. Oh, come on up, she may. Right after she speaks, I'm gonna have Melissa speak so that we can, grab my two phones. I'm so glad you could make it. Okay, well, you had some great, you had done a great job, and I'll let you brief what you did.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and my apologies for my tardiness. I was traveling here at 75, and we had an accident. We had construction, and the route that I took to get here, we had bikes on the brick. So I saw every kind of Harley and full throttle motorcycle you can imagine. So it took me about 2 hours to get here, but I am here. So thank you. I want to first off say thank you to your wonderful councilwoman, Councilwoman Burns. I also recognize and see another councilperson, Councilwoman Jerry Winfrey Carter, in the building. So I definitely want to recognize them and appreciate the work that they do. On behalf of my team at the Genesee County Land Bank Authority, our Executive Director, Michael Freeman, our Board of Directors, obviously we have Commissioner Raynetta Speed with us and a part of our team. We are grateful to be here. And I don't see Jonathan. Did Jonathan leave out? But he made the presentation. We're grateful to be here. We're always happy to be in the community. We work on behalf of the community, but to be particularly in the community at events or meetings and happenings such as this. So thank you for welcoming me. I want to be mindful of your time and for everyone that's here. I can give a brief synopsis and overview. Many of you, everybody's heard of the land bank, right? Hopefully, you all have had great, wonderful, positive experiences with the land bank. I see some folks shaking their heads. So, we want to correct those experiences and make your experiences as pleasant, as efficient, and as meaningful as they possibly can be. So, I can talk about, within my wheelhouse, I'm the Director of Sales and Development. So I can talk about small business, nonprofit, looking at commercial buildings or development. I can talk about future plans for development within the city. I can talk about purchasing homes through our Ready for Rehab, our featured homes, or our VIP program. Or I can talk about our vacant land, our $25 side lots. And so I can go on and on and on, but I don't think you all want to hear that. So what I want to do today, and I promise you, I will come back if your gracious councilwoman will allow me, and I'll be on time, and I'll probably bring some cookies or something. But I want to open it up to questions. And I also want to make myself available to each of you. So to provide my telephone number, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, when you run into any roadblocks or issues, feel free to contact us directly. I know Raynetta does a wonderful job in following up with everyone and making contact with them and putting them in the right contact with the right person at our office. But with that, if I may open it up to some questions, I'll provide my telephone number, 810-257-3088. And I'm at extension 525. Am I talking too close to the mic? I am. Okay. Why y'all didn't tell me? And my extension is 525. My name again is Alexandria Riley. And with that, any questions? 810-257-3088. Extension 525. All right, we got some questions. I'm going to do this lady here and then in the back. Yes, ma'am. I'm already here. I can hear y'all. Okay.
When you sell a house to somebody that's been staying for years, and they don't take care of the property, what are you going to do neighborhood about that property?
That's a great question. So the question was, when we sell a property to a new individual, a new buyer, and they sit on that house, they don't do anything with that house, what is our recourse as an agency, as the Genesee County Land Bank Authority? To be honest with you, our recourse is limited based upon the locality, the court system. When you look at Detroit, for instance, we can internally do things, and we do employ this, and that we can make it where that particular individual or entity cannot purchase from us again. We have a list where they're disbarred in that regard. We did, in response to that, we developed a program specifically. It's called the VIP program. And what that stands for is very interesting properties. These are properties that have more of a historical significance, properties that have more of a public interest. And so, for instance, we have an old firehouse on MLK. We had a house on East Street. We have the old Charles Nash house. So these are houses that generate a lot of interest generally. And so what we would hate to see is that someone acquires them and they sit on it. They speculate. They don't fix it up. They bring down the value of all the other homes around them. We don't want that. So with this new program, which eventually we plan on trying to scale it out to our entire portfolio, we do what's called a reverter deed, and do an enhanced development agreement. So that buyer is now obligated by signing over another deed, a reverter deed, that if they don't perform, if they don't fix that house up within 1 year's time or show some substantial progress, we will go back and we will file that deed and take the property back. So that's, yes ma'am.
How you find out about it? It's been 4 years, they haven't done anything, so what category is it in? Why hasn't something been done for a year?
So in our VIP program, we're doing active compliance. Beyond that, we need individuals like yourself. If you see a property or know of a property, we have the Flint property portal where you can lodge complaints, and not just lodge complaints. You can find out who owns that property. A lot of times we get phone calls, not so happy phone calls, where people say, clean up this property, whatever, and it's not our property. It's privately owned, or what have you. So that is a tool. Does everybody use the property portal? Yeah. So do you have the app on your phone? Okay. I know it's a phone thing. You use it mobily. The app is so much better to search and to use as a tool and a resource. So thank you for that question. I hope I answered it. If you have anything further, I'd love to talk to you afterwards. This lady in the hat in the back.
It's okay. Thank you. Someone else, you can. Someone else.
I didn't. Did I do it?
You can take one out of the bills. You don't have a question.
No question? Okay. Did I answer it in the process?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to pull me aside.
I would love to.
Any other questions? No questions? All right. If I may add one last thing. Yes, ma'am. Great question. So if someone wanted to buy one of our properties, what steps do they have to go through? The very first step is the most important step. They have to see the house. So we were talking about Detroit. Detroit, you can go on their website and you can just buy it, sight unseen. So you don't know. You not walk through it. You don't know. You see what pictures they advertise and they show. We do the same thing. But we require that any of our buyers have to be at a show. So we categorize our properties in different categories. We have the VIP, very interesting properties. That's relatively a new rollout. We've been doing that. I think we've had our fourth property earlier this week that we showcased within that. And we advertise those days for those open houses. We have what I think is one of our premier programs, and that's the Featured Homes program. Within the Featured Homes program, we really try to push and gear toward home ownership. We allow our buyers to purchase directly from us by way of a land contract. So in-house land bank, land contract financing. And in order to do that, they have to see the home. Some of the restrictions as far as with the land contract in particular, you can't have had a previous tax foreclosure with the Genesee County Treasurer. So that's, if you've had that, then you can't buy by way of land contract. Now, in general, any of our properties you cannot purchase if you are behind on your property taxes. The taxes have to be current purchasing. Beyond that, you cannot have had any tax foreclosures within the last 5 years. So if it's after 5 years, then we take it to our board, we present it there, and we ask them to approve the sale. So those are some of the main factors for qualification. But we have every individual that walks through the property, we have them sign in. That way we know who's been there, who's seen the property. And ultimately, the biggest reason that we mandate that our buyers see the property is because we don't want them to come back later and say, you know what, I didn't think it was going to be this much work. I thought it was going to cost me $10,000, and really, that's just scratching the surface. We want our buyers to understand that these are tax foreclosed properties. These are properties that have gone 3 years, oftentimes, without anyone in that property before the treasurer gets it, forecloses on it, and then sends it, transfers it to us. So it's an investment that has to be made. Is there value there? Absolutely. But acknowledging the investment and the requirements that are a part of that It's gonna take time, it's gonna take resources, and it's gonna take a labor of love in that regard. And so we have a lot of great buyers that are committed to that. We're grateful for that. Is she looking at me like I'm talking too long? Okay. But we have a lot of great buyers that, and a lot of individuals that are realizing, and I tell folks all the time that long has it been known and understood that American dream is based upon quality and opportunity for every individual that seeks it. Through our programs, any person within Genesee County that wants to become a homeowner can become a homeowner. Through our feature homes program, through our land contracts, we don't look for it. We don't look at tax returns. We want to see that there have been 60 days of income coming into the household. We will qualify our buyers based on Social Security, disability, based on retirement, based on child support. So we make it very, very easy to get into a situation that is affordable, but also acknowledging that it's going to be a project for that buyer as well. And so what we witnessed, about 84% of our total sales are going for the purpose of home ownership. And that's 62% where people are buying for themselves and for their families. And then that's another 22% where folks are coming in and saying, I want to buy for my niece, my nephew, my grandchild, my daughter, my son, my sister, my brother. And the reward of the work that I do. You know, it's never a dull moment. We get the times where people are upset and saying, hey, clean up the yard, hey, get your people out here, board this up. But in the moments that I experience, where you have moms that come into our office and they're closing and they're saying, I'm buying a house and my payment is now $200 a month and I own it. And they break down in tears. The joy that you experience in knowing that and knowing that they're planting roots in the city of Flint, in Genesee County, and that they're building equity and wealth long term and taking pride in what they do. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, along that line, how do you purchase a lot?
Okay, that's another great question. You guys got the best question. This is the best group I think I've been in front of in a long time. So I don't know, Councilwoman Mr. Carter back there hasn't invited me out yet, so we'll see. But
It's good.
that's a great question. So our side lot program is another program that's very, very valuable. You can purchase, if you own your home, and with our blight program, a lot of properties that need to come down are coming down, thanks to City Council, thanks to the Mott Foundation, thanks to the state, Congressman. So many of our leaders step forward to make that a priority. So these properties are coming down. When they come down, what are we going to do with them? We obviously have means in place where we're going to maintain them for so many years, but ultimately we would like to sell them to the adjacent property owner, or we would like to use that as a site to develop new housing. If an adjacent property owner is interested in buying, and mind you, I say an adjacent property owner. So we get folks in California, New York, everywhere that try to buy vacant lots. And we know that they're going to sit on those lots. They don't own anything else in the area. If they have a development plan, we'll work with them. But ultimately, we want to know that if we're selling you that lot, you're going to maintain it, you're going to keep the grass cut, and that you're going to expand it with the property that you already own. So for $25, I don't know anywhere else, anywhere in the world, where you can buy a lot next to your home for $25, the value in that in itself, if the adjacent property, the homeowner, buyer, is PRE, that means principal residence, if they're homesteaded. So that process is very simple. You get an application, you can get it on our website, www.thelandbank.org. You can get it in our lobby, 452 South Saginaw, downtown, next to the flat lot there, next to our food deli, like those sandwiches. can get the application there, you can get it online. You can use the property portal to find out and see if the demo is taking place in the very near future. We have to go through the release process. And so what we can do is take the interest, and once the lot is available, we will call you. And let me just say this, and I think that'll be it for me. We, in the past, I got hired in during the height of COVID, and we had this incredible, you wouldn't believe it, backlog for vacant lots. And that means that citizens were buying vacant land, and that's a good thing. But if you would have applied today, you would have got called back next October, December, probably about next year, about Christmas. You probably would have gotten a call back and said, okay, do you still want to buy it? And you might not even remember even putting in the application by then. But we have this incredible backlog in processing vacant lots. We added some individuals to our staff. We really kind of doubled down on it. Now I am very proud to say that if you apply today, within 30 to 45 days, which is standard for any real estate transaction, if it's a regular adjacent side lot, you will own that property if you're eligible within that time.
May I? Because now you are addressing my situation. I've actually spoken to you before because I had 2 lots that were adjacent to my house on the Pier Road. The food bank was able to buy them right out from underneath me. Do you remember me? That hurts me to this day because I have lived where I live for 20 years. And I care about my community. My family had a business which was on the opposite side of my house in that community for 90 years. And so now it's gone. It's no longer available to me, and it's just sitting there. And they actually sold the lot, one of the lots, to Aetna, and the one that's directly next to my house is just open. So anybody can come in that they want to sell to and be next door to me. They can like block off my property, whatever they want to do, and that's kind of frightening. So, I mean, what recourse do I have?
I appreciate you sharing that, and I do recall speaking to you on that. And if I recall in that instance, I think that was when I first got hired in.
Yeah, Dawn Everett was there before you.
And so part of our bylaws, when it comes to development, and I think that was in a commercial area, so it wasn't a standard residential site lot. So based on the bylaws, and they actually completed, I think, the demolition and they paid for it.
No, the city did. And the city did because I worked with the police to get the house torn down. I knew the owner of the house, had been there since I was a child. She passed away. The family couldn't take care of the property anymore. It went into foreclosure. And I was partially responsible for getting that house torn down because I wanted that property next to me. Because I wanted to expand my living situation over into that property. That's no longer.
That's been several years ago, and I can understand your frustration with it, and I could in that moment. And so I can go back and check just to kind of verify and refresh my memory with it. But like I said, I think if I recall correctly, if it wasn't that particular property, the food bank did complete.
You're talking about the one that was to the west of me, which is where my family's business used to be. Yeah, you did. You explained that. I got that. That made sense to me. However, to the east of me did not. It was just like a takeover because they are an entity, and that brings me to another. That brings me to this question: how is it that a nonprofit organization in a neighborhood can just own so much property? They own a lot of property in my neighborhood.
Well, it depends on how they're acquiring it. We do have specifically, so with us, and I can speak to that experience, and for the benefit of everyone that's listening, so it can be explained, is that if you have nonprofits, if you have businesses in commercial areas, and we own a blighted structure, and they have the resources, because prior to the blight program, we were limited on what we had, and we had a lot of frustrated, upset neighbors that wanted properties in their neighborhoods, next to them, on their streets to come down. And we just couldn't muster it all. So when we have partners, be it nonprofits, general businesses, and they come forward, we have a demo policy. And so what they would have to do is they would have to go through the process, they would have to put up a bond to make sure that they actually run that structure down. And so we don't finalize the sale to them unless the city ends up filing the demolition and they complete the demolition in compliance to code with code and in a proper way. So unfortunately, one of the parts of my job is also understanding that it's always a trade-off. You don't always have the outcomes that you expect or want or desire. You know, we have sometimes it's a vacant lot in between two houses, both neighbors on PRE, and then you're forced to even have to split that down the middle or determining who you're going to sell it to. So we're not going to always have an outcome that everybody's happy with, but ultimately we work for the benefit of the community and trying to better eradicate blight and improve the conditions of our neighborhood. So with that, I'll step to the side if anybody wants to ask me any questions directly. I would love to afterwards. I'll stay as long as need be. And again, I thank you. You guys have been great. And
I do want to get into it, and thank you, Alexandria. Those are some tough questions. The land bank, there's always questions about the land bank. But I'm going to shift to this because I think we had kind of gotten sidetracked a little bit. I want to say thank you to everyone in 6th Ward because we had a problem with Matthew Gillette. And I did work very closely with Sergeant Booth, and he got real tired of me, very tired of me. But they did arrest Matthew Gillette. He was, someone walked in the door, handed me the porch pipe. He would steal people's items and try to sell them back to them. He was busy. So he did get arrested this week. And I was hoping that Sergeant Booth would have been here to explain and talk about what happened. But Mr. Gillette has got some, I believe, some mental health issues also. And I just want to say that the 6th Ward residents are tracking him, posting it, stating if he was in the area, he was headed down. I mean, it got very, detailed. He'd get taken a lawnmower, he'd have a pair of boots he had taken. I mean, so if you're leaving your garage doors open, was just a no-no for him because he was all over. He was even all the way down to Miller Road taking items. And so the police did apprehend him. He was in police custody. I believe I posted it, was it Wednesday? On the Glendale Hills site, but that's because of the 6th Ward residents. You did that. You did it, you spoke up about it, and Sergeant Booth, the Flint Police Department, took it serious, and they did finally arrest him, and it was just persistence. And also enforcement is an issue. Next week, I'm going to have Melissa Mays. She's going to give us an update because people have been asking where we are with the water lawsuit. I don't have anything to do with that. So I will give everybody the wrong answers. And then also where we are with service line, and then the lawsuit of service line, right? So introducing Miss Melissa Mays. Step to the side. I know this is my chart. I know.
So, hi everybody. I actually live over on Beecher Road. I don't have a lot of meetings usually all over the place. Melissa Mays. I've lived since 2009 on Beecher Road. We have a great neighborhood, so I appreciate all the work you all are doing to keep it safe. Yeah, I did show up on my porch a few times asking for stuff with a random pair of boots, and I'm like, no, okay. So, but my issue was my kids were outside, so that was not great. Okay. As for infrastructure, it is legit. And they are the processing company that's going through and they're doing the claims administration. Well, this is very stressful. And I'm loud, so I'm just gonna stand aside so I'm not blowing your ears. So it's taking very long. They took the job on, not realizing that 55,000 claims was gonna be able to work. So it is taking longer and they filed extensions. If you have ongoing health problems, home issues, things like that, please continue to collect this and give it to your attorneys because that should be included in your claim. I don't know what the rules are going to be, but over the past 2 weeks, I received email from my attorney, Cynthia Lindsay, and then also a pack in the mail because one of my children has now become an adult, so he had to sign his own paperwork. It's been going on so long. So keep up an eye for that. Reach out to your attorneys that you filed with, and if you don't know who that is, there's the Flint Water Class Action Office that's on the RT Longway. They'll help you. They can at least look up, if they're not your attorneys, they can at least help you look up who it is. Because this has been going on for so long, so it's drug on. So it's not, don't feel bad if you've forgotten, because it's been, a few minutes since we've done paperwork and everything. So, but keep up on that because you don't want to miss out on it. But now, hopefully this means, just from that, it means that they're updating records and reviewing claims. And again, this settlement is aimed more towards children because the state of Michigan got to be a part of the claims billing process. So as adults, even though we have dramatic impacts as well, this is going to be 80% for the kids. Now, we still have defendants out there, Veolia Engineering. Land just settled, I don't know for how much, but they're going to throw money into the current existing pot. But Veolia, they're worth some millions. Veolia and Department of Justice/EPA it's still outstanding, so it's not finished. It's taking forever because justice isn't quick or fair. I don't want to leave my personal opinions out of that part. But yeah, so please reach out to your attorneys and keep an eye open. If you change your address or phone number, please let them know so you don't miss any paperwork you need to sign. Because then what will happen is they'll go through, this is how it's supposed to happen, is they're going to go through looking at your claim that you submitted, and then they'll discuss with you how much that, and this is an awful thing to say that your damage is valued at, and then you can agree to it or, yeah, but that's between you and your, I am definitely not an attorney. I just have a lot of them and have been in court a lot suing everybody. So yeah, so just that's my page. Just keep up on it and reach out to your attorneys to find out what's going on with that. Now, the pipe replacement lawsuit, that is I'm more hands-on with that one. So basically, the Safe Drinking Water Act lawsuit filed by the Natural Resources Defense Council, or NRDC, and ACLU of Michigan, Concerned Pastors for Social Action, and the reason that they are a part of it is the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act cases. They're very specific on who they'll allow to file lawsuits against, because it's not a money lawsuit, it's an enforcement, so it's basically forcing the city and state to comply with the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act. Very boring, not exciting whatsoever, but it is how we were able to get the water pods open longer, even though the state shut them down prematurely. But hey, that's not covered in the law, we were lucky to get it at all. But the biggest thing is to get the service lines replaced all the way up to the home, if it is lead or galvanized steel, at no cost to the resident. But also, a big part of that was to have the restoration of your yards, streets, sidewalks, and anything that was damaged during the digging process to be replaced and restored at no cost to you. So we filed this lawsuit. We started in 2015, filed January 2016, settled it in March of 2017 with the city and state agreeing to replace, to inspect, and then replace every lead and galvanized steel service line, and then restore every property. And it was supposed to be finished by 2020. That didn't happen. It is currently past 2020, and we're still in court. So, and then you may have seen the news recently, we filed to hold the city and the mayor in contempt of court, because in February of this year, federal Judge Lawson had ordered the city to complete all restoration inspections because they didn't have record of any of the homes that were restored or that needed to be restored, like my house. And the homes that hadn't been even dug yet. So there was records issues, and he ordered them to be finished. The inspections by May 1st. The inspections didn't seem to start until May 13th. And so that's in violation. If the judge does decide to hold it in contempt of court, because in contempt of his order to have this done, then they will have to pay fines, and that will go to the court, not to us, unfortunately. Do we want that? No. In no way, shape, or form do we want, because it's our money, right? So we don't want that. But we have been back and forth in court so many times, that's basically the only recourse that we had left. Because asking, working together, begging, demanding, all that stuff didn't seem to, it fell on deaf ears, it seemed to be. But we also have seen a lot of work happening real quick with this. So if this is what had to be done, it is like the worst babysitting / parenting job, and I've got 3 sons. Because I used to get $2 an hour to babysit. Listen, I get nothing. But it's not about the money. It's about getting the work done. So I live on Beecher, and our street is like a death trap. Especially once you come around off court, and there's just a stick sticking out of the ground with a cone, and then all the holes. It's not good on shops. It's not good on everybody's safety. So we continue to ask, and should it fall on your shoulders? Should it fall on the residents? No. That seems to be the way that things are going. Is that we have to do everything, right? I mean, up into it, including almost like just doing the digging ourselves. Don't do that. So there are phone numbers that I'm going to go out, and I have flyers in the back at the table over there, and it's Know Your Rights. So this is important. Take with you. You have it in English, Spanish, and Arabic. So the NRDC and ACO, you print these off. And then here's the deadline information, which we are past, but the city was supposed to finish excavations by August 1st, but we see that there's still digging going on, correct? Which is infuriating, but a relief, because we're not going to stop until all blood's out, because it's not okay to skip any, because we are all connected to the same system. If your neighbor has a lead or galvanized steel service line still attached to the mains, if there's a main break, which and I live over Clarence, it's all the time. If there's a main break, it can backwash and pull the lead out of their lines and put it to the system and go to your house. Okay, so it is important. And I know that people are like, well, I'm already poisoned, it shouldn't matter, or this. No, it is important that you get it done, but also the laws are changing on a federal level, which is a good thing. It's taken decades, but it's changing to where it's going to be required all lead be out. So you might as well get it done now while the state's paying for it. The state is paying for it, so you don't have to. But also it'll increase your property value. It's a good thing, and also it doesn't matter what your age is. Lead and the other contaminants that travel with it are not safe for you. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm not a kid, so it doesn't matter. Oh, no. You be putting metals into an electrical system, which anybody tell you is not good. So you don't put a fork in a socket, right? Not a good thing. So take care of your body. You are born, doesn't matter how old or young you are. Not a good thing. And you didn't do this, as far as I know, and none of you did this. So it's not your fault. It should be fixed, and it's a little piece of justice for all of us. And it's what we deserve. And it's what the federal judge decided that we deserve as well. So they're still going through, but remember, as long as construction is going on, it's shaking up the system, so it can shake loose, lead, heavy metals, bacteria, other contaminants in the system. So that's why our lawsuit provides free copper and lead tests twice every 6 months. Usually every season is a good idea to get it. Whenever the temperature changes, it can change fluctuation, but also free filters and cartridge replacements for 1 year after the last service line is replaced, which apparently hasn't been done yet. And the reason 1 year is it takes a year for me to see. I talk with my hands a lot, so we're just going to sit back to this. For 1 year after the last service line is replaced, it takes a year for it to settle down. So please don't assume that just because you got your line replaced that everything's okay, because the system is all, and saying this part of town versus that part of town, we're all connected. So let's just kind of keep an eye on that. But also, we are on the west side, which means we are the furthest from the water treatment plant. So I don't know if anybody's had the fun guess what smell it is today in their shower. Anybody had the permed? Like, is anybody remember from the 80s, the permed smell of water? What is that? I've asked, nobody can give me an answer. It's awful. It just reminded me as a little kid, my mom was always getting perm and that smell. sign has been replaced or what your material is, or if you know that it hasn't. Row Engineering and City of Flint have a number established, and it's 810-410-1133. Or you can call the NRDC, and the flyers have these phone numbers on there too. Or you can call the NRDC at 312-651-7918. Or you can email, especially with your address saying, hey, my property has not been dug up for inspection or restored. Also, if you got a door hanger like I did that said my yard was done, even though my water shutoff was sticking up this high, my yard was sunk down here, and it's my lawsuit, it's not my why. Seriously. So obviously we'll take pictures, say this is not safe, this is not it, because we did have neighbors parking in my yard for the longest time, and they had flat tire because they parked and ran over my water shutoff. That was kind of funny, like maybe don't park in my yard. But that aside, that's not safe. So basically your water shutoff should never be sticking up. It is a safety issue. Your sidewalk should be restored. Again, restoration means restored past the construction. Your yard reseeded, it should be filled, not sinking in, because I know with all the heavy rains, it's been causing flooding. So all of that, you decide if it's done or not, okay? It's your property. You decide if it's done. The door hanger I do not agree with, so I made a phone call and some emails, because it's me, and then I actually called the news out to look at my whole neighborhood, because we have chunks of sidewalk missing. You know, like that's not okay, you know, so anyhow, just know that, and also I'm your neighbor, so if you need my help, over there on Beecher, probably out there pointing with the news saying this ain't okay. But you can also email Yecolette, all one word, at cityoflint.com, and if you're going to do that, I always ask that you copy the attorneys on it, which is flintpiperemoval@gmail.com, so that way you've got evidence. And if you call that number, please record it or have somebody witness it, because there were, have actually scripts was out of my house, and we made a phone call and the number didn't work. It's just like, it's not the right thing, because I tattle. I tell the news, I tell the attorneys. At this point, it is just like tattling, but it's not right. So anyhow, as long as this is going on, please stay safe, please use your filters. You get free cartridge replacements. I recommend pitcher filters over the tap ones because they leak, and if you run hot water through them, it completely damages the filter itself, so please be careful. As for Legionnaires, because we have had Legionnaires operating on this side of town because of the lack of enough chlorine. If your water's been sitting all day, please run your shower before you get in. Open a window and use an exhaust vent, because Legionella bacteria, you can inhale it through steam in the shower. So please just have your vent on, have your window open, and make sure that it's going through, but run the pipes first. So if anything's built up and your pipes, you can kind of flush it through. The same thing with your filter, your tap filter. If it's been sitting all day and you've been out, run cold only water through it to rinse that through. And it's not fair, but that's expensive. And again, fair isn't a word that kind of fits here, but you need to do it to stay safe. So just flush that out before you use it, and take care. You know, just be on the safe side, go with your gut. I know we all want to be back to normal, whatever that was. But in the meantime, we just, if it's not right in your gut, don't let anybody tell you it's fine, it's clear, so you can drink it. Because let's just remember, lead and a lot of these other contaminants have no color, taste, or odor. So please just know it's under construction, so everybody is at risk. Doesn't matter how healthy you are, or how young you are, or how old you are, it doesn't matter. It's not a good thing. Our bodies aren't supposed to have this. It's not vitamin. So please take care of yourself and look out for yourself and your neighbors. And if yards aren't done, if your pipe's not done, please let somebody know. Get it done. Get it done now. Wow, you don't have to pay for it. And make sure the job is done right. Okay? Because that's what we're here to do. So if anybody has any questions, sorry if I bored you. Oh, hi.
Yeah, my question is about the age of the water. You said we're further from the one treatment plant you mentioned, not enough chlorine. That's my biggest concern about our water here.
It is, because we are about 6 days. It takes about 6 days, and now it might be a little longer because with the big water tower shut down, that helps with pressure and the speed of getting the water to us. But we're furthest from the water treatment plant, meaning the chlorine, which is important. Chlorine's not a bad thing. The chlorine, as it goes through the entire system and all the other main breaks and all the other volatile organic compounds and everything, and as it interacts and does its job, basically, and unfortunately degrades by the time it gets to us. Yeah, that's why in this ward, we've every year had the Legionnaires cases. So that's why it's so important that we probably should see and do something about the water shutoffs, because that's more water sitting still. And the more water sits still and stagnant, that allows bacteria to grow, allows the chlorine to degrade, and yeah, we need some chlorine. And if you're smelling bleach on in the sixth ward, that is the disinfection byproduct, which is a carcinogen, and can cause a lot of issues. So again, please take a shower with a vent on, and doors open, windows open, whatever you need to do, fans sucking it out, because that can cause cancer, neurological problems, gastrointestinal problems, rashes, things like that. So if you're smelling bleach, it's the disinfection byproduct of the chlorine being used up, if that makes sense. It's just the water's gotten old by the time it reaches us, and so bacteria is a concern. And unfortunately, if you are going to use the tap water, you need to filter it first and then boil it if you're concerned about bacteria. You have to filter it first because you've got to reduce those metals. Because if you just boil it straight away, you're condensing the metals. Because metals, things like that don't boil away. So then as you're boiling and having less water, you're going to have more metals in there. So you're just going to extra dose yourself. So filter and then boil, or use bottled water, which is not fair, and I hate it. I don't like people getting rich out of our issues here, but this is also why we need to continue to speak up and not become complacent, because we're all tired and old and over it. Like, totally over it. I used to have a really kind of fun life before this, and I hate the word water now. But, it's what's right for us. We didn't do this, and so we've got to continue to speak out, continue to speak at meetings, and I promise I'll try to come to more community meetings. If there's questions, also, Councilwoman Burns knows how to find me and get a hold of me, and you guys, you can message me. It just might take me a minute because I would do 100,000 things. But it's important that we talk to each other, look out for our neighbors, make sure those yards are done and safe, sidewalks are done and safe, as we're trying to rebuild our community and rebuild it right for us. All right? Yeah. So calling in, yeah. So you can get the jugs. They do have, so there are whole home water filtration systems you can have put in the basement, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's still a hit or miss, because if you have not replaced your interior plumbing going beyond that filtration system, your water heater, your dishwasher, your faucets, they're still corroded. So even if you get the whole home filtration system, if you don't get the plumbing replaced beyond it, it's not going to help super much. There's one that you put under the sink, but then again, those small filtration systems don't get everything. So those are good things to have, but just remember it's not going to be able to get everything. So unfortunately the fix, and that's what the damages lawsuits are supposed to do, are to replace the interior plumbing, appliances, and fixtures, and help us to be able to afford to get a whole home filtration system. And then if it is under the sink one, and they do bring you a new lead-free faucet, and that's another thing too, when you do replace your faucets, check to make sure it's lead-free. And now the USA version that still allows like 0.08% lead in wetted surfaces, meaning where your water touches, because this country is super good at keeping in the metals. So just do it. Kraus, K-R-A-U-S through Home Depot, I actually was able to get a kitchen faucet that has no lead whatsoever. It was of course made in Germany. And everything is plastic on the inside, but hey, at least it's not lead. So, yay.
I was wondering that this water still is not right.
No.
It's not fit to drink. Really is not fit to even take a shower, because sometimes there's an odor in that water. Now my house was built in '53. They came out and told me, oh, he did something. Oh, you got copper pipes. So I said, how did you think that I have copper pipes? And this house was built in 1953. So it went on. But it's still, that water is not, it's a long way from being right.
As long
it's not fit to drink. I wouldn't drink.
As long as the water is going through corroded infrastructure, because our mains are, most of them are cast iron, and I got to take a peek because I'm weird. But when they were digging up and everything like that, the contractors let me take a peek at ours, and it's awful. 7 years, Flint has been under the standard. No. First of all, in July, somebody tested at 14,586 parts per billion. And let me just tell you, the only safe level of lead is 0. 15 parts per billion is not the safe level. That means if 90% of the tests that the city did were above 15, the average is above 15, that means the city has to do something about the corrosion control. So that they like to conflate it and pretend like that's a safe thing. But the last 6 months, the city's tested out of the 65 or whatever houses, over 30 of them were businesses. There was only 30 homes and 32 were businesses. So that's just messed up. So once again, it's loopholes like we caught in 2015 on the testing. So if you've got the people who are responsible doing the testing, they put out these headlines, and it's so infuriating because, one, that's not even a good representation. I don't live in a business. I don't live in a restaurant on Saginaw Street. That's not where I get my water. So you have to see, we do those full water quality conference reports every year. We just got, usually it's in July. We're supposed to get them in July. And I know it's yuck, but I'm happy to do like a session on what you actually need to learn in these bad boys. And what's there and what's not there. The thing that should always alert people, and it's boring, so nobody wants to read this, and it's, it's depressing, it's frustrating, because we're still doing it. But on the first page, general information says people with health issues need to speak with their doctors before consuming water. As long as you got a warning label like this, yeah.
They came out, one house in my block, they put the pipe down. But I talked to a lot of people in the other neighborhoods. They just come out and dug the hole and built it back up. You got a copper pipe, and I don't believe that.
So, and not to have anybody panic, but some of the records, they were also not digging big enough holes, and then some of the records got lost. That's why it's important to reach out. If you reach out to our attorneys, which represent all of us, by the way, they're your attorneys as well. It's everybody who lives in Flint. That's why the concerned past social action was used, because the statute for being able to file a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit like this, has to be a club that doesn't charge dues, that anybody can be a member of, and that can represent the whole town, the whole city. And anybody can walk into a church and say you're a member and not have to pay dues. So that's why the pastors were used in this. And by the way, nobody got money out of it, except for the contractors got paid after the work was done. So what that means is that it's able to represent everybody. So they're your attorneys as well. So you can reach out and have addresses checked to see what those records say and to see if they're right. Because that was another thing, because people were supposed to get door hangers or letters saying, especially to show your homeowner's insurance, because a lot of us have increased rates. And if you want to sell your house, it's a good thing to have on record, like when you have the paint, the lead paint removed. But if you sell lead paint, that's a warning. So we're trying to push that it's actually put on our records that it was replaced, or that it's copper and not lead. However, records have been a mess, and it has been a nightmare. So if you have questions, you're not sure, if you don't believe them, call the attorneys and have them check.
And you say the concerned pastor is doing what?
No, so they were one of the plaintiffs, the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit. It's how we were able to sue and represent the entire city. So that way, it's not just one neighborhood or one section, because I don't know if you remember back in 2014 and 15, the city and state tried saying the bad water was only in 1 or 2 neighborhoods in one area. So this way, since I think there was like 260 churches in Flint, it was able to represent the entire city. So that's why they were included in the lawsuits. People had questions about that, like why the pastors don't go to church. But you could, so you could be a member and not have to pay dues, and that was how we were able to get the entire city. And we made history, meaning this is the first time that residents of the city sued the government, the state government, and city government and won. Especially to force them to replace all the service lines that were cost to us, all the land and steel service lines. But again, just remember, construction's ongoing, things are not safe, and please reach out. And if your yard's not been restored, if the street's not been restored, the crews, the actual concrete crews, the ones that are doing the hard surfaces, they've been trying to get, and they're saying it's the state, And maybe we don't drive around and lose tires when we're driving down the street, or again, whipping up, you make the curve on the beacher, and it's like, oh goodness, that's a wood stick.
What did we do to the state? What did we need to do?
Eagle. So basically, it used to be the Department of Environmental Quality. You call Eagle or the governor's office, anybody at the state level or state rep, push them, because that's who the city is saying is holding back the putting of overtime and additional staffing to get the work done. So yeah, just push all the way up, because yes, it's local, but at the end of the day, the state is paying for everything. And there's plenty of money left. Don't let anybody tell you there's not with the wind funds, but they will expire at the end of December. And I don't want our money to go back and the work not be done, and us just be left with halfway done.
Yeah, because I know, I've talked to a lot of people in the hood, and they say that they're not satisfied because they didn't really check to see what kind of pipe they had. They just blew it off. So you got this, that, one.
Yeah, so I have so I have a stack of flyers over there, and I've got them in English, Spanish, and Arabic. It's also know your rights, but also talking about the deadlines and everything. Please take them with you, so I don't have to put it out in my car. And I do have more, but take them with you and pass them out. Let people know it's not right, and it's not okay to settle for the mess that they're leaving us with, because we didn't do this. So the more people that speak out, the less chance the city administration gets to say, oh, well, nobody's saying things, so they must be happy and fine, because that is what's been happening in court. And I'm like, yeah, because they're also not listening to folks. So we just have to get louder and stick together, as we have been, as you all have been, to make things better in our neighborhoods. But also, please, again, please don't assume that your water is fine because it's clear and because you had your service line replaced, because everything is still ongoing. Please, you can call, you go down to the city of Flint, you go down to City Hall Monday through Friday, like 9 to 4, and get cartridge replacements for your filter. You can get the water test every 2, 3 every 6 months, or you can call 810-410-2020. But we have that information over there to have them deliver it to you, because the Flint Public Health navigators are supposed to deliver them to you if you can't make it to City Hall during that time. But yeah, just get what's owed to you and make sure that it's done right before, and then don't listen to people declaring everything safe while there's, wait until actually medical professionals or scientists say that it's safe for real. And then you know what's best.
So I'm saying all the lawyers, because my house, it's got the original front. It ain't copy.
Inside the house. So
they get in the front yard and plug up, right? They're paying in to replace.
So unfortunately, the federal Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, does not cover interior plumbing. It doesn't even cover the mains or streets, which is what we're pushing to change, but that's taking a while. But that's also why I tell everybody, even if you're not going to get very much with the money lawsuits, that's what it's supposed to be for, is to help us pay for our interior plumbing and all that. So keep up with your attorneys with the class action, the civil cases and stuff for money, because unfortunately the law does not cover it. It only covers the service line, because it's outdated. But we're still working to push on it. But yes, so reach out to your attorneys for your civil cases. But then as for the pipes, the service line, and the yard restoration, the NRDC and ACLU of Michigan, that's who to talk to. Check your address just to make sure. And if the restoration's not done to your liking, take pictures and let them know. Thank you.
See, I like people who give you the real. Because I don't want to give you the information that you need to hear, but the truth, the facts, and printing. So we do have one, which is Joe. But Joe, before you come up, I want to go over ARPA, because I see we have went over, and I apologize. But I'm going to go real quick with the ARPA funds, because that was one of the issues people are concerned about. So you're going to hear, I'm going to call it gaslighting, such as the council isn't working together, the council are holding up ARPA funds, there are 3 people holding up ARPA. I did not agree, number one, to the selection process with the ARPA, and I'm transparent. One, according to our Flint City Charter, page 5 speaks to multi-member bodies, and it tells you that any group of more than one person is considered to be a multi-member body. That's page 5. Page 55, 56, 57, and 58 speaks to the Open Meetings Act and how a advisory group can be set up. The charter, which I use my charter, and I'm very good at comprehending, there is a lawsuit that yes, I did sign on, and I'm going to tell you why. The process has not been transparent. I want our funds to reach those residents who need them. And how it's set up now, if you have a blue tarp on your home, you don't have homeowners insurance. That's just the fact. They won't insure a home with the blue tarp. And so if you have a blue tarp, you need homeowners insurance. So we need to have some non-conforming ways to help our residents. The other part is this committee, which was created, there are 12 people. We had no process with council as far as selecting them. According to the city charter, page 57, it states that any person or group advisory administration every single time were they meeting, they said no. They lied. They lied. They were meeting at the public library. A veteran, Mr. Grundy, had walked in after he served his country. He asked if he could sit in. They told him no. So, for me, that was a problem. According to the Open Meetings Act, any multi-member body group has a responsibility to take minutes. Those minutes are given to the city clerk, so we know what happened in the meeting. So, and also the public is supposed to be able to come in to see what's going on. Because $94.7 million came to the city, and it's being allocated by a 12-person group, our advisory group. The city, when asked, and it's on, if you attend the meeting, it's on the video, I've been asking for the past 3 weeks, and I gave them the answer. My question was the 12-person committee paid? They said they didn't know. It's on the city website. I didn't put it up there. They were paid a stipend to make these decisions. So it was also discovered, this is why I did not support the 12-person committee. It was discovered at our meeting this past Wednesday. A councilwoman put in for her own nonprofit. We hadn't taken care of the residents first. I was also told that the committee did not approve her organization. Well, how did it get approved for $50,000? So I'm going to continue to be transparent. So when they say, and you'll hear gaslighting, dog whistle terms such as, they're not supporting, they're obstructionists, they're anarchists, and we're hearing these words from leaders. That's not what, when I'm saying I am not voting yet on ARPA, it's because it won't reach the residents. We should have a responsibility of council. If Tonya Burns puts in for $50,000, I have a right to disclose it. And if the nonprofit is in my name and my husband's name on it, you have the responsibility to do that. I will never do that. Not ever. I got probably the worst sidewalk in the city of Flint. You can pick it up in chunks. Literally. It is, and I won't get my sidewalk fixed, even though some of my neighbors who are seniors walk, until I take care of the residents. I put the residents first. I'm going to continue to do that. So when you hear, like I said, those terms, I want you to be conscious of it. I am not supporting giving any council person any money for their nonprofit, not when it's a duplicating agency already supporting that. I won't do it. And it wasn't disclosed. And she did not show up to vote on it at our last meeting. Because if she had to vote on it, she would have to abstain, and she would have to have told us why. We didn't know. And as I'm sitting there, because I read, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm on like page 70-something. I'm like, okay, this is a problem. And I asked our finance chair, has she told you that she had applied? And she says, Tonya, it's on the record. No, she had not told me she had applied. I believe in transparency and disclosure. And it should have been disclosed when you were applying. Because there were organizations that were turned down, nonprofits. They were turned down. And so this process was not open, which is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, page 58, that states the meetings have to be published, they have to be posted, so that residents like you can attend. This is your money. Why are we holding secret meetings? I will not be a part of a secret meeting, because y'all not gonna hold me responsible for that. So sometimes when they say they're fighting, check what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to make sure that these dollars hit the residents and the organizations that deserve them. I'm fighting to make sure that it's fair and that it's transparent. And that I won't apologize for. I'm gonna continue to be transparent, because when I go to homes and I'm looking at seniors, when we have the torrential rains, they're literally placing pots around their homes to collect water, and they need a roof, and the ceiling's falling in, and the home has plaster. And I know that because they don't have insurance, that $50,000 could have been used to repair somebody's homes, not for some council member.
Well, if you got a council member that's like that, election coming up, get them out of there. Because they're no good to us.
Well, Ms. Blackwell, yes, Mayor Joyce.
Just money for people during the pandemic only, their homes, that's something pandemic only?
No, and here's the thing with that, and this is another part. We have the ability, and I'm going to example, everyone in the city of Flint got a $300 water credit. No, I did not vote for it, I'm going to tell you why. One, there was an agency that would pay your water bill off. And so the state would, and then we have the RAP program and the energy card. So there were other programs. I would prefer taking that money and doing something else with it. So everyone got money for the water bill. Everyone will not apply. They have set up to G-Card, Metro, and Habitat for Humanity. There's a waiting list, and you have to go by their guidelines. So if you don't, and guess what one of them is? If you don't have homeowners insurance, you don't apply. You can't get a roof, and who will need it the most? Why would I vote for that? I won't. So we have the ability as a council to take and change those guidelines, take off those stipulations, which means we need to do the work. We have an ad hoc committee. Our ad hoc committee consists of two people. It was Priestley and Lewis. They didn't hold not one working session, not one. And a working session means it's publicly done to where we're figuring it out, and we can, the public has a right to inquire so that we can figure out how to do it right for the residents. And that's what I wanted. We have $5 million going to home repair. $94.7 million is what the total amount is. We have less than 5% going to home repair. We've seen how our homes, we walk out this door, we see a building that needs to be demolished. So when we talk about, does it go to everybody? It will not. It's the guidelines that Habitat for Humanity has, and they have a waiting list. So they're going to take care of the residents that they already have. And so then it was told they may have a year in the hole that they hadn't used, then there was some uncertainty. I don't like uncertainty. I don't like that. That's why I wanted a working session. So there is and there's some of these agencies are doing great work. And I call it laundering your money through a nonprofit. This person has a nonprofit, put it through another nonprofit. That's a pretty slick way to do it.
I went through Consumer at a deal where they got grants through the federal government. And they came out and they put me a new furnace, air conditioning, new hot water heater, and vacuum, called me a new vacuum cleaner. They clean out my air ducts, and they put insulation in my attic. And that is what they're doing. They say it's a grant. It's a federal grant. They're going to do it, and a lot of people, they came out and put roofs on their house and whatever.
And that's what we're working on now, to compile resources. I am not a social worker by trade, but because residents call me with such needs, I compile and give them the resources that they need, because our residents need so much help. So Mary Joyce, everyone won't receive that money. And I want to take off the stipulations and the guidelines so that those people who need those roofs, the people who need those furnaces, the people, even windows, And when we talk, we have people come and say that they need the floor of their bathroom repaired because the toilet's falling in. So those are some repairs that we need to be taking care of. COVID is a once in a lifetime money. I don't ever want it again because people died. I don't even want it again because we were thrown into a pandemic and still dealing with the water crisis. So Flint was unique with how we suffered on what we were going through. So when it comes to the ARPA, I will not vote yes on that resolution. It's got to go back. I will not give ARPA funds to any council person. I won't do it. Not when we're not taking care of the residents. And I also did not vote. I voted no to redo the council chambers. And I voted no. Matter of fact, the budget was $750,000 for council chambers. And I was like, Dennis, and Dennis comes to some of my meetings too. And I was like, Dennis, I need your vote to take $250,000 off so we can put this over to Haskell Center. He's like, okay, Tanya, I'll do that for you. But we took $250 off of that. I had a motion on the floor to take $250. So we spent $500,000 to redo council chambers. Did it need to be redone? Was it outdated? Yes, but there are residents that have not been taken care of. I want to take care of the residents first. The residents first. I will always put the residents first. So that to me, and we had them say, you take care of your house when you're going to take care of our house. And they had a cute little song with a nice little rhythm at our last meeting. The residents are speaking out. That money is slipping by. And if we had, not if, I want to know how that got put in there and approved. If the 12-person committee, I put it on record, the city clerk said she didn't know. City clerk has not had any record. The city clerk was not told about any of the meetings. The city clerk has not received any minutes from this ad hoc committee meeting or the ARPA advisory committee. So we don't know what they are doing and making recommendations with millions of dollars. We don't know because they met secretly at the Flint Public Library and the public, like you, were not invited. So that's what I'm fighting for. Yes.
Yeah, Tanya, you're speaking to my frustration for attending the city council meeting on Tuesday and why I came up with my little song. But to the average citizen, whatever reason, if 3 or 4 people on the council have reasons why they won't sign to release the ARPA fund, what the everyday person sees is nothing being done to help. So council members really have to find a way to work together on something. It's like I may disagree with my neighbor on speed bumps, but I can agree with my neighbor on let's fix the sidewalk. We got to find something that we can work together on.
Now, council doesn't disagree on everything. They do not. But when I'm looking at those funds, we have a responsibility with the Treasury Department to do it right. We don't do it right, we got to give it back. And so, if it's not following number 1, if they are violating the charter, which tells you that multi-member body, page 5, page 56, 57, 58, and I put it up on my Facebook and I'll share them with you. I get what you're saying, but it's not even enough. We had over between 700 and 800 people apply at our initial meetings for our funds. They haven't done anything with those. Those people thought that they would be put first. They have not been put first. And so when we talk about the process, I'm not going to vote to give, and like I spoke with some organizations, a council member who snuck it in, I'm not doing that. So what has to happen, and you did state, I stayed on record, we need a working session to get it right. The ad hoc committee should have called. The ad hoc committee was appointed November 2021, and they should have had a working session. We had 2 working sessions. The ad hoc committee didn't show up. The ad hoc committee, one of those people, she knew the rules, set the rules up, and knew that they were meeting secretly, and did not. That's the one who applied for $50,000. I mean, that is unethical. So we talk, and all of ARPA has been appointed. We gave $16 million for demolition, $3.5 million to Ashley Capital. So those things were done. So we have given and allotted some of those monies. But when it came down to them holding, it should have been released, I agree. Because before we got there, it should have already been set. That money was first allotted in 2021, May 19, 2021. And so before I wasn't there yet. I'm sorry, 2019. I wasn't there, I wasn't on council then. And so the money should have been allotted. And the structure had not been set up at that time. And so the ad hoc committee didn't set it up right. And so as we did talk, and I had spoken with the finance, I'm like, Judy, we gotta go back to that. That one needs to be pulled out of there to change that. But they did approve already money to go to Habitat for Humanity. It's not gonna be enough in Metro. It's just not gonna be enough. There was a question, was it 32 million, was it 50 million left? I was told it was 30 million that's left. And so I'll get you to the second one, it was 32 million. So I want to pull some more of that money away. I put a motion on the floor, let's add another 5 million, to it so that we can do more for residents. Let's figure out a non-conforming program to get insurance for those homeowners who are seniors. These are seniors, you can't pick up that water when it was raining and carry, in pots and buckets. So how do we pay for insurance? I did meet with Shelley Green, and her and I are working on how do we pay for the insurance. So, but you were in that meeting. We found out at that meeting that a council person had put in money for herself. So, and I understand what you're saying. There's already money there. You can apply for Habitat. Habitat is only taking names now and creating a list. They're not telling you how far back they are. And here's another issue. I have people who have said, you know what? I applied for Habitat. I didn't meet their standards. I made too much. Or I don't apply because I don't have insurance. So there were some criteria. We have the ability as a council to take those restrictions off so that people who really need it can get the help. Saginaw has put in over 200 furnaces last winter. They put in, I think, almost 200 roofs. They are outpacing us. So people last winter who needed furnaces, over 200, they got them. We didn't do it. I'm not on the ad hoc committee. I will not hold up money, but I will not allow them to steal it.
Hopefully y'all can hear me. I can't really project, but it was something that you said, Councilwoman Burns, that always irks me when it comes to art. But the reason why we got this money is because of poverty. It's not just because it's just random Flint. We got the second highest in the state because of our poverty, because we're poor. Yeah. And so what that means, at least for me, is not like this go to people's kind of fever dream project, but it needs to go to specifically benefit poor people, because that's the reason why we got this money, is because we a majority poor city.
You are correct. And we look at the people that it's going to receive it. I'm seeing they're figuring out how to create loopholes. And so I think as a council person, it's my responsibility.
And the fact that it's so disgusting that people are trying to figure out how to profiteer off of people's poverty. Yeah, poverty pimps. They hold us out. and we gotta figure out ways to kind of, address it and confront that to kind of steer whatever ship is already kind of left, but steer it so it can actually dock on the dock of the people.
Now, you are 100% correct. And we should not be profiting off of poverty. And it is happening. It is happening. And so when people say obstructionist, I'm not obstructing. I want it done right. And I'm willing to do the work. If I got to stay at 6 a.m., I'm going to do what I got to do. If I got to be up in my pajamas, taking no-dos, I'm going to do it to get it right. So I'm committed to doing it right. That committee can call a working session at any time, any day, and I'm there.
So that's one of the main solutions, political solutions, is if you take your book that's highlighted and dog-eared and torn up, and if people are voting one way or the other, and they are not staying within the charter, call them out.
I did, and then file a lawsuit too. That's what the lawsuit is about. I don't get any money from the lawsuit, but what this makes them do.
Making the people, the everyday hard working, I mean, we've been hit with water, people
We had $1 billion come here, and guess what? None of that made it to the residents with water price, almost $1 billion. And who spoke up and fought for the residents?
And the attorney's getting 33%.
That's the second lawsuit. That's the water prices that Melissa was talking about. But we talked about when it first almost $1 billion came through our community, and it didn't hit our neighborhoods. Then we got the 600 million. They haven't been paid on that one yet.
Right.
And then we got the 94.7. So we have a pattern here that let's go back to the table. And why didn't you disclose it in the first place? And then I won't be a part of anything unethical. So when you said my charter, yes, I cited the charter, the rules. And I'm not a la carte. I read my charter. I have 3 of them because they look bad because I use them. The people voted on this charter. These are the rules. It's kind of like if you're religious, your guideline to religion is the Bible. And so if you follow that, and this is like our Bible, the city charter. I'm not going to buy. I took an oath to uphold the charter, and I take my oath very serious, very serious. But when I look at some of these, if you got a blue tire and these people are applying, they won't get it. They don't have insurance. And insurance just won't cover you because you do have a blue tire. You have to fix the roof first. So with me working with Shelley Green, we're trying to figure out how do we get that part done. But this hadn't been talked about before. They didn't think redlining exists. That was a whole, they said redlining did not exist during a council meeting. It does. It does. Absolutely.
What can be done about that person getting that money?
I am going to submit to the ethics. That person also took a check from Ashley Capital where the residents were going to, she took a check for $1,500 from Ashley Capital. Tonya Burns didn't take any checks from anybody from Ashley Capital. They asked me, did I want some money? They did ask me. I told them no. There were 3 checks that were given. One check was given to Councilman Mays for his campaign. There was a second check that was given to Quincy Murphy for a lawnmower. And then there were some miscellaneous items, $4,750 that was given to him for 45 families. And then Liddell Lewis received $1,500. And so I just happened to be at an EPA EGO meeting, and I asked them, because they were asking the residents for $72 million basically tax abatement, that for 30 years they would capture $72 million of the taxes for Ashley Capital at the old Buick site. So I go to all the meetings, and so I asked them, I said, well, has anyone ever have you donated to any council person? I knew about Councilman Mays because he had told everybody at every meeting. And so then Susan said to me, she says, oh yeah, well, we bought a lawnmower for Councilman Murphy. I said, a lawnmower? She says, yeah, what mark was it? We ordered it. Well, it was the X mark. It was $11,000 lawnmower. And then she said, oh yeah, we gave it to Councilwoman Liddell Lewis for her Halloween program, $1,500. I said, okay. And then they sent me the checks to prove it. So I put the checks up on my website, on my page. And so that to me, she said, well, Tonya, do you need anything? I said, no, because that's a conflict of interest. I won't do that. If you're coming in the charter states, you cannot take donations or gifts with any business that's seeking to do business with the city of Flint. It's against the charter. It's against the charter. And so now they're upset because I'm talking about it. And they said, well, she had a shirt. I have every shirt that I wear. Mott Fest, the turquoise one, I paid for it. The one with the Lentil Lawn Group, I paid for that one. I paid for my turquoise and purple with Mott Fest. Because I paid for my things. I'm not for sale. I declined. I didn't take anything from it. They wanted. There's some money that we could have used for our board, but it came at the price that my vote needed to be transparent and not touched. And I left it like that. Because when it came to voting for giving them a $72 million tax abatement and capturing it for 30 years, you know, we have an operating budget. We bring in about $58 million a year. That's like a year what we get for our general fund. And so they wanted $72 million over a 30-year period. So I look at things in a way that, how do we work this out? And I feel that if you're taking funds like that, I did request, and Councilman Pfeiffer did request, that they not vote on that because they had taken money. He also requested, Councilwoman Murphy-Carter abstained, and I abstained. I was not going to vote on that when I know that we have resident council members who took cash donations. Now, I'm saying that lawnmower was nice. It's called the Bentley. It's an X mark. It's a very nice lawnmower. But, you know, you become compromised, in my opinion, when you take money. I don't take money from organizations, and I won't do it.
Is it better to vote no than to abstain? How does that?
No, it doesn't. It's not a yes vote. And why? This is why I abstain. I abstain because people need to know I'm going to vote yes or no. When you abstain, you have to state your reason. I want the residents to know why I'm not voting yes. I want you to know why I'm not voting yes. So if it's something that's unethical, immoral, or I talk to residents all the time, and residents were like, $72 million, well, why can't they pay it? If it's, you know, we have this big project. Actually, it's a great project. Our council should have kept their hands out of it. They should have. They should have kept their hands. It's a great project. It's going to be great for our community. But they should have been taking any donations, checks, or cash. I didn't take any. So, any more questions about Nair?
No, you can go.
Right here.
Yes.
I think I heard you say that with the secrecy going against the charter, they might be able to take the feds might be able to take the money back. Is that I might have heard you wrong.
Say that again.
Okay, I thought I heard you say there are circumstances where the feds could take the money back, basically because of the secrecy going against the charter.
No.
No, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, wait a minute. Well, if we don't do it back, then we do have to pay our funds back. There are specific guidelines for chartering, for those ARPA funds that have to be spent. And we have a deadline to have it appropriated and then to have it spent.
Okay.
And so the guidelines are very specific. And it should be done above board and it should be ethical.
Okay.
And our meeting got into, I was angry when I found out at that meeting. I was angry because it was not disclosed. We should not be finding out at a meeting that council members have put their organization in and then didn't show up to the meeting to vote on it, because then they would have to explain why they could not vote on their own or on a resolution.
So crooked.
Okay.
All right.
It's just crooked. It's just wrong.
So, block clubs, do they have grants for, block? I was hearing that they had grants out there that you could do something on your block or for your block.
There are grants that are available. Then also with the ARPA funds, we had passed for each council to receive $30,000 for their boards. So I'm waiting on the guidelines, it was approved, on how we can, use that money. And now it's, but it'll be very careful. I'm very open and transparent. We don't know how, we have not received it though. So, and it's supposed to help out with, to do the things in our board that need to be done. So I'm waiting for the guidelines to come back. But I want to get started. Joel?
Yeah, we've only got a little bit more time in this.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you, you're right. I'm gonna let you. So I want to get to, I don't think so run over. So Joel is one of our, he's with Communities First, and he's a great community partner. I'm gonna turn it over to Joel.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming out today. adjacent apartments, adjacent commercial space, the gym that we're in now, and we're working on doing developments like this all across the city of Flint. So if you've seen up at Grand Traverse University, over at the stadium is a development we're working on. Other things, we're big believers in our city, and are always appreciative to work with members of city council.